NJCAA Hot Hoops. Kenya Landers, Dan Olson, we're back at it again. Middle January, the grind continues, Kenya, and we're gonna find out some people that got disappointed this week and some people that are really making statements. Okay,
Man, yeah.
you want to start it off? Who kind of fell into the misery index this past week? Anybody?
It was an interesting week. We got, like you said, we got some teams that took care of business, and we got some teams that, you know, got knocked off a little bit, but we still have a lot of game left to play. One of my favorite games from the week was the McLennan and Collin game.
Oh yeah.
McLennan was able to come out on top by 1 point in overtime.
Yes, they
So
were.
yeah, so that was definitely fun to watch and fun to see. Just a back-to-back nose biter heavyweight fight.
Yeah.
So both of those teams
Yeah.
definitely left it all out on the court.
Yeah, I think there was a little trash talking going on.
Hmm.
It was intense. I mean, I saw some clips of that game, and that's certainly going to shake up our upper echelon of our top 20. You know, um, I know that there's a couple of teams that kind of faltered. Odessa went 1-1 for the week, I believe, or 0-1, excuse me. Arizona Western 0-2. But then there was a load of teams that kept perfect for the week. And of course, our big dog at the top, Northwest Florida State, 17-0, number one. They keep steamrolling people, and they steamrolled Tallahassee. They almost doubled the score on them the other day, 87-44. And that doesn't surprise me. I mean, I think what's going on here is there's some pecking order that's starting to happen among the different leagues throughout the country. The West Texas League, East Texas, and of course the Florida Panhandle. They're starting to figure out who's really, really taking command, I think.
Yeah.
And that's obvious throughout the middle of the year like this. And
Mm-hmm.
the wins are starting to rack up for people. They're starting to approach 20 wins for some of these teams.
Yep.
So yeah, as Northwest Florida State continues to roll, so does Gulf Coast. Gulf Coast beat up Chipola pretty good the other day. And they've got some balance on Gulf Coast. They just
Yeah.
don't have a single player in Izzy Mamadou, of course, who does the damage, but they've got
Hmm.
Aaliyah Bartholomew. They've got good pieces that really contribute. So I mean, they had four people in double figures against Chipola the other day, and
Yeah.
but we touched before a few times on the little point guard at Chipola, Tanaja Purifoy.
Mm.
Um, well, she almost scored half. Well, she scored over more than her half her team's points.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had 32, 5 threes the other day on Gulf Coast, but of course it wasn't enough. She needs help, and I'm sure she'll get it as the next year and 2 years come following. But Gulf Coast made a statement against Chipola, and then Chipola turns around, beats Pensacola. So I think you've got like a 2-team race, and then who's going to figure out that third spot in the
Yeah.
Panhandle among those 5 teams?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that McLennan game with Colin. I mean, the big dogs kind of stepped up in that game, and then there was a couple of kids that really kind of showed out a little bit that they really could play. Anaya Williams, someone we haven't really
Yes.
talked about.
Yes.
Marlin, Texas. Now that's not too far from Athens, is it?
No, so Marlin is um towards Waco,
Oh, it
I
is.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, but it I think I could be wrong.
Okay.
But it's not very far at all.
The 6 foot forward, strong, athletic, soft touch in the lane. Um, I think she was a transfer from South Carolina upstate. And she was the one that made the difference there in overtime. She hit a little jumper in the lane,
Mhm.
was a beast on the glass, had 16 boards in that game too. And then we've talked about remember the Alabama track star turned basketball player, Asia. Well, she was a vital component, and as she's probably been throughout the season. She's averaging about 7.5 points a game. Um, but Sine Beverly is the motor
Yeah,
behind that boat.
no
Okay,
question.
in averaging 18.6 a game, she's really put them on the map and steered them in the right direction. And look, they're gonna move up. I mean, I think Colin will slide down a little bit, and we're gonna have an interesting game coming up. I think next week.
Mhm.
So
That's right.
the little point guard for Colin was really outstanding. She Mackenzie Buss, 27. Wyatta Jennings, the lefty guard, one of the better guards in the country, 24
Yeah.
and 15. She had a monster game. So, last week we had MJ Baker on from Eastern Florida State,
Mhm.
and she had two tough games last week. She played Indian River, and she snuck by them by 6. And then she turned around and had to play Daytona State, and she beat Daytona State as well by more considerable, about 16, I think, or 20 or whatever. So she put it on them pretty good. But Amelia Hassett, one of the nation's better power forwards that's out there, has been a significant stable uh,
Yeah.
uh, performer for Eastern Florida State. She had 23 and 11 the other day against Daytona. So, Eastern, she's got it moving in the right direction, like we spoke about last week. She's continued to
Mhm.
move that way.
Yeah.
Um, and again, we've got 3 teams that are unbeaten, Kenya, and no surprise that it's the same 3 that we had a week ago, other than Colin.
Right.
We only got 2 now. We got Hutch, and we got Northwest Florida State. So, but Hutch snuck by Barton County the other
Yeah,
night,
they did. Yeah.
and again, one of those competitive, tough games, similar to that of the normal Kansas Jayhawk Conference. There's a lot of good teams in that league. You got to be ready every night, and
Man, Kiki for Hutch went off. She
yeah,
hit the three. She played really well.
yeah,
Yeah.
unassuming kind of a guard. She kind of
Mhm.
fools you a little bit, but she's a model of consistency offensively. I mean, she's been that way for as long as I've watched her.
Yep.
And they're doing their thing at Hutch. No surprise. They're keeping it moving. And
That's right.
so's Southern Idaho. Southern Idaho beat Utah State Eastern. Utah State Eastern's been in the top 25. Um, and so College of Southern Idaho has been 22 this past week. And
Mhm.
they got a good guard. Among the balanced players that they have at CSI, Jamison Heaton, a 5'10 guard, smart, fundamental, can stick to 3 when she needs it, mid-range jump shot, puts up solid numbers, rebounds, assists, plays smart basketball.
She's so well rounded. I mean, you look at the stat line, she's in every
Yep.
category. She's really,
And,
really
and that's typical of his teams that he has at
good.
Southern Idaho. So um, we're going to talk about Salt Lake Community College because we're going to have on our hot seat today,
Yeah.
we're going to have Marcy Grayer, the head coach at Salt Lake, on with us here a little bit later. But she's she's rolling. She beat
She's
Southern
rolling.
Nevada. It was a tight game the other day, but her point guard is dynamite. Heaven Samoya Mathis,
I love her.
transfer from Hawaii Hilo. Okay. I think she's a California girl. Went to Hawaii and came back, but solid. 11 points, 4 assists, 4 boards. Distributor, can stop and pop, knock down the 3, get into the lane, make them, bring the double team, dish it in traffic. She's that
She
kind of a
runs the
dog.
show. She
Yeah,
runs the
nice
show.
player. Nice
Point
player.
a dream. Yeah.
I would venture to say she's getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would venture to say you're right.
Yeah. So much hasn't changed on the Division II side.
Johnson County still rolling.
Johnson County's rolling, followed by Iowa Western. They haven't changed.
Mm-hmm.
Rock Valley, Illinois, a team I have not seen yet, but they're 19-0.
Yeah.
And they've been around now. They've hovered in that top 10 over the last few years in the Division II side. And then the old nemesis, they're 15-2, Kirkwood Community out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Yep.
And then the defending national champs, Essex out of Baltimore, they got 5 losses, but they're still in the top 5, you know?
Yeah.
So,
they're going to get it going. Yeah.
they'll figure a way, you know, and they play that tough, grinded out type of a game somewhat. And he'll get them to peak. Mike Sini will get them to peak, I think, as they move into the month of February. So, you know, good recap of the games. We had some interesting things happen over the past week, but that's the way it works, you know, and that's how it'll be, you know. So, it'll be exciting next week. When we come back, let's talk about Upload when we come back on NJCAA Hot Hoops.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student athletes play the sport they love.
We're back with NJCAA Hot Hoops. That's Kenya Landers. I'm Dan Olson. We're going to talk Upload, Kenya. We're going to talk about the games that are coming up this week, and we have a special game this coming week.
Yes,
we got to wait until Saturday to let it happen, but you know, good things come to those who wait, right? You know, so. But let's just start off first with Midland. Midland's kind of been struggling through the year. You know, in that tough West Texas JUCO League, they've been a pretty competitive team over the long haul. Ron Jones has had outstanding players year after year after year, and he's going to be challenged now. He's got to go over to Hobbs and play number 9 New Mexico, and that could be a handful for him, but that could be a difference maker for his season too. So we're going to find out how they do at New Mexico. Hobbs or New Mexico has been a little up and down, I guess you could say, and see if they can kind of iron things out as they move forward here in the month of January.
Yeah, I just feel like New Mexico is just going to handle that with ease. I need more from Midland, you know, like, I mean, you got the facilities, you're in a good location. I just, you know, his teams are pretty just, you know, but it's time for Midland to start making some noise. I mean, they've kind of, you know, just flown under the radar and, you know, they jump here and jump there, but consistently, like, we just haven't seen a lot from them.
Yeah. He's got one really good wing forward, Louisa Anderegg. She's a foreign player, a 6'1", 6'2", kind of a stretch 4, but pretty consistent among his team. I think she's been kind of like the rock solid performer for him. But yeah, he needs more help than one, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he typically has 1 or 2 good ones, but I mean, let's get out there and grind and find
Yep.
a good, number of kids that can go for you.
Yeah, and I think you're right too about New Mexico. New Mexico, pound for pound, they may have more talent than anybody in the country. And they got to start to put it together.
Yep.
And I think, this would be a good building block for them to really
Mhm.
get going moving forward, because they're going to get challenged. Odessa's going to be there lurking.
Yep.
And who else ever out there in that league? South Plains, don't forget South Plains.
Right. And they did just have a good win over Odessa too, 93-76. So, they just need to keep doing what they're doing and keep on grinding.
Yeah. We've got Grayson, who's also been solid during the year. New coach there, Steve Lowe. They're going to play Collin. Now, Collin's, you don't play Collin after they came off a loss now. I mean, they're going to be at home.
Trouble.
So that's going to
Yep.
be a difficult game maybe for Grayson, because Collin doesn't want to go 0-2 for the week, So there's going to be a bounce back game for Collin, I would suspect. But then we go Pensacola State. They got to go into Niceville and play undefeated #1 Northwest Florida State. That's going to be a challenge, because Penny Belford's team, she's got a talented group. But she may be the 4th best team in the league, or the 3rd best team in the league there right now.
Yeah.
So she's going to have her hands full. We got an Eastern Florida State Indian River rematch now too. That was a 6-point game last week. So they're going to play again and, see what the outcome is. And I believe that game is at Indian River. So that could be one of the more challenging games for MJ Baker's team at Eastern Florida State.
Yeah.
But then we got the big one. We got the game that could potentially be the national championship game in Casper in March. And the Northwest Florida State's got to travel over to Panama City and play Gulf Coast. An undefeated team, a 1-loss team, 2 of the best front court players in the country going up against each other, in Celia Rivera and Izzy Mamadou.
Yep.
You got good guards on good guards. It's going to be an interesting game. I would love to be at that game. I don't think I can make it, but I'm certainly going to view it. That can be a guarantee, So there could be some additional shakeup in the upper end of the top 25 as we move forward here for the next week. And, who knows what else is going to happen, among the other teams out there. I mean, we've got some good games percolating, I think, throughout different parts of the country, and so it'll be an interesting next week to see what starts to happen,
Yes.
So,
I got a feeling this now wait, who is Gulf Coast's first only loss to? Northwest Florida?
Eastern Florida State.
Eastern Florida. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Eastern Florida State. Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be a good one.
Oh yeah. So we're anxious to see how that's going to play out. And that's our upload section for the week. When we come back, we're going to have Marcy Grayer, the head women's coach at Salt Lake Community College.
Yes.
She's going to be on our hot seat when we come back from NJCAA Hot Hoops.
As the second largest intercollegiate athletic association in the country, the NJCAA serves not only a pivotal role in college athletics, but in higher education. The NJCAA Foundation aims to move the association forward through resources, grant programs, and other special initiatives. Your gift to the NJCAA Foundation We'll make a difference and create opportunities.
We're back with NJCAA Hot Hoops, Kenya Landers, Dan Olson, and our hot seat guest for the day, Marcelina Grayer, Salt Lake Community College's head coach. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you here today and want to talk to you more about your team. And we're in mid-January now, and the regular season is fast through, and we're starting to settle in. And you're on a bit of a winning streak. You've won, what, 12 in a row now, correct?
Yeah. Well, I think actually it's 11 now.
Oh, it's 11? Okay. All right, cool.
I'm pretty sure.
Anyway, I know you've had some very close losses to a couple of teams that have made their mark so far in the top 25. So you're right there. You're knocking on the door.
Yeah.
But Kenya, you want to take over and just kind of elaborate with Marcy about her team and as we go forward.
Yeah, I would love to do that. How you doing this morning, Coach?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We appreciate you jumping on with us. I know it's grind time, so you don't have a lot of minutes in the day. So we definitely appreciate that. I just want to say, it's been fun keeping up with you guys this season. And I love, the corner that you guys are turning as a team and the way that you started taking it up. So coming from somebody like you were alumni there, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So talk a little bit, that's always a special situation for me because I played at the Valley and then coached there. So I had like a different type of pride for my program, right? And so
Yes.
That's one of the things that I've really been wanting to chop it up with you and talk to you about is how do you relay that? How do you talk to the team about, it's not just about you, it's about those that came before you and but they have to make their own legacy as a team. So just talk to us a little bit about how all of that's working out.
Yeah, for us, I always tell the girls, look at the banners in the gym and you want to leave your mark. Every year it's about you leaving your mark because it's a new group, and as you know, the JUCO, we turn it over every year. So it's a whole new group. Yeah. So that's our biggest thing at the beginning. Our biggest key is what mark do you want to leave? What legacy do you want to leave when you leave here? Because as a whole, you'll never be together again, It's hard to put in the pride for them, especially if they're with me being from here, like what you were saying, the pride I have for Salt Lake is something they'll never really feel just because I've been here for so long and I played here as well. Yeah. But so trying to get that out of them at the beginning is a little harder, like to play for, the name across your chest. For them to fully understand that is obviously as much as me and you would understand that. Yeah. But I think it's more of what I try to relay to them is them more as a whole, play for each other and then obviously play for the program, but then leave your mark because everyone else before you have left their mark. So you don't want to be the one year that doesn't leave yours type of thing.
Yeah, I love that. Because, it can kind of be a double-edged sword. You can, I remember just constantly with my team saying, hey, what's this team going to do? What's this team? And finally my players were like, Coach, you got to stop comparing us to everybody. And I'm like, I'm not. And they're like, yes, you are. We are not your team. We're not those teams on the banner. We're going to kind of take our own way. And so that was a little check for me, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, you need to do what those teams did, Yeah. So that, that was always very interesting to me. So you guys are on an 11-game win streak. Just how have you guys done that? How have y'all turned the corner? How have y'all, started to progress? Sounds like you guys are peaking up, moving up at the right time. And obviously you're probably not playing your best basketball yet, which you don't want to. But just talk about how you guys, are turning the corner.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I might have, made it hard for the girls by playing a tough preseason. Because again, our 4 losses are all in the top, 25, easily the top 18. Northwest Florida, Gulf Coast, that's 1-3. You have Eastern Arizona, I think they're like what, 14, 13. And then you have Odessa, who's 15.
Yes.
So I had a pretty tough schedule for them. And if we wouldn't have had those losses, who knows where we would be, if we played others. But I think that having those tough games early allowed us to learn and grow in areas that we need to mature in and get better at. So now that we're in this part of our season, those little tweaks are now fixed. Obviously, we still have some growing to do in every little area, but I think to see that athleticism early and see that toughness and that battle early that made us kind of have to fight, we now have that fight coming in this part of the season, which has helped us a lot. I do believe that.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot early on. Like I was telling you, me and Dan have just had so much fun following y'all. And we were impressed. Like, we're like, she ain't ducking nobody. Like, she is trying to play the people that it takes to play. And guess what, though? Like, you made that schedule for a reason. You wanted to see what you guys are made of, find your weaknesses, and then go and correct those, right? And so, I'm a firm believer when you've been in the fire, like the next time you're in that fire, you're gonna come out on top. And so much respect to you for playing those people and getting in there and mixing it up.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, some people call me crazy at the beginning, and I was like, we want to be the best, we got to play the best.
That's right. That's right. I love that. So talk about a couple of your key players. I know as coaches, we try really, really hard not to, hone in on the individuals, but like, who's balling for you right now? There's a couple things I want to know. Who's kind of being a steady Eddie, carrying you guys, doing their normal, but then who's starting to blossom, because this time of the year is like those new players, like it's just all coming together at this point. Like the game is slowing down for them a little bit, and they're finally starting to figure it out. So drop us some names of some people that are some of your players that are doing their thing.
Yeah, I would have to say this year, out of many of my other years, we're really deep. So I think anyone can have a on night at any time. We score it pretty evenly throughout the rotating 8 to 9, which is hard to guard. So all in all, we're pretty balanced in that way. I think our most consistent player that's held us is Heaven. She's our point guard, and you guys talked a little bit about her last week, and she's just
I love her game.
Yes. She is tough. She is tough. And you would never even think she tore ACL before she's torn it. And that's why she took a year gap. And you wouldn't even ever notice that if you watch her. And how she plays is how she plays every single day. So in practice, she's that same exact way. I always know what I'm getting from her. She's tough. She can score at all 3 levels, and she likes to defend, which is hard to find both. So she's been our most consistent. She's been our steady that's kept us there. The one that everyone trusts the ball in her hands. I think the one that's peaking right now is Mia Tarver. She's number 23. She's our wing. Really, it's been fun to watch her because, Heaven was a transfer for me. So this is my first year with her. But Mia, I had her last year, and she didn't have as big as of a role as she does this year. And she's just completely turned the corner. She's more of a slashing guard, dominant, get into rim, really, really quick. And she shot the ball really well from the 3 as of right now. So I think she's the one that's starting to peak at this point because everyone's kind of honing in on Heaven. And then I have some freshman bigs that are really, really good that I'm excited about to get next year. And another freshman is Anna. I think she's number 22. She's just quick on quick, really, really good hands, can get to the rim. She's a fire. So I think within those guys, those are my new kids. I guess really they're all new except me. So they're all turning up in big ways, which is nice.
Yeah, unique part to your team that I've noted, and told Kenyu is you've got like 8 kids that are over 6 feet tall. Kind of an abnormality among the JUCOs out there. Yeah, some people have some good size, but you've got a number of them. And you really stepped it up. I mean, I really liked watching your team early, and impressed with your backcourt. Loving the way she plays. But you've got some skilled interior players. And then you've got a girl named Karina Grayer on your team too. Tell us about Karina.
Yeah, Karina's a shooter.
Yeah.
Not only is she a shooter.
You didn't mention your sister.
Yes. Well, so I'm getting to it, but I feel like
Yeah.
she's a good piece. She's a good key. Now, is she someone that's gonna blow you away? Like, is she our main scorer? No, but she's gonna knock down a three, and she's probably our highest IQ kid for sure. And she could pass it, big guard, which I love. And then obviously she's my sister, for those that don't know. She's the baby. So I feel like I'm her mom in a sense because there's such a age gap. But I'm very, very proud of what she's done the
Yeah.
last 2 years for sure.
So tell us about the teams that you're going to have coming up now that are going to be some of those really, really important games. I know they're all important, but some of those that are really going to be
Yeah.
putting you over the top and feeling like, all right, we really belong. Fill us in on that.
I think, yeah, we play USU Eastern on Wednesday, so that's going to be a good game. It would be a tough game. We get to play them at home first, which is always nice. But with them being ranked at, what are they? They're at 16, I think. I think they're at 16. With them being ranked 16 and then us beating CSI on CSI's floor and they're ranked 22, I think 2 weeks ago, I feel like that's going to really give us some pull. But those are going to be our big games. So we have USUE Wednesday, and then we play another team, Snow, in between, and then we play USUE at USUE. So we play them pretty close back to back, but those will be tough. Obviously, CSI is always a tough matchup.
They are.
And CSN in our conference is actually, they're doing some things this year too, and they were really good. So we have a tough conference schedule within that, five group of teams.
Yeah, I agree. CSI, they've always been a perennial power. Year in, year out. Randy does a great job there. But yeah, no, we're really anxious to see where your remainder of your year goes, and how some of these kids that you've got develop. And you got a great facility to play in, beautiful city, nice campus. I visit you there every year, and look forward to being there, but we're going to hopefully see you in Casper, Wyoming here sometime in the near future as well, So
Yes, for sure. For sure.
What else you got, Kenny?
Coach, I got one more question for you. And I got asked this question a million times, and so I gotta do you like this too. So taking over for such a prestigious coach. I mean, 23 years as a head coach, for you guys, and then to be given the reins. And I think you were there, 5 years before you took over as the head coach?
Yeah, I was 6. Mm-hmm.
6. Okay. So talk to, because a lot of people talk about, I remember as an assistant, I knew everything. I didn't understand why it was so hard for my head coaches to make decisions until I slid over one seat. So just talk to us a little bit how, going from the assistant and sliding over to the head coach role, like are you finally starting to, find your groove? Because I went through a whole year almost of where I felt like, everybody was waiting on me to do everything like the previous person did, or, so how have you just put your own stamp on the program and moved in the direction that you wanted y'all to go?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, as an assistant, I was very blessed that Betsy let me do a lot of things. She kind of groomed me into knowing that eventually she's going to leave and she wants me to take over for her. So I was able to get my hands on a lot of stuff, more even stuff like office stuff. I also became the compliance director early as an assistant. So I was already kind of in that type of realm, but she let me do a lot of budget things that you don't even really know you have to do until you step into that role. So I was very blessed for that. And then even on the court, she let me have a voice. I was sometimes more the discipliner before she would have to do it. So I got to kind of step in that realm. And I was over the guards with the bigs. I'd help her with that. So again, she gave me room to truly grow as a coach and find my own voice within her. But I do have to say, once I took that job, that one seat over, girl, that sleep, I miss my sleep as an assistant. I do.
The pressure was pressure.
Okay, I'm like, then I'm having dreams about end game like scenarios. I'm doing this, like you can't even sleep on some games. I'm like, Jesus. And I remember the first year after she left, I was like, I don't know how you did this for so long. But that was a big wake up call for me for sure. But then other than that, I feel like the first couple years you catch yourself trying, I guess, to keep what's been successful, right? So for her, that was successful in how we ran things. With me as an assistant, I knew her like the back of my hand because I also played for her. So it was easy for me to say things before she would even need to tell me. So I think as a head coach, the hardest part was finding that for me, finding an assistant that could do those things for me without me obviously having to, because I have to teach them, I have to teach them what it is I want. But I did realize how important an assistant coach is, a good assistant, and really one that you can laugh with because, life gets crazy and stressful. So one that you could just really go and just laugh with and just have a good time with does everything. So again, going back to me finding my own, I feel like this year has probably been the most where I've kind of really found my niche. I always knew that we needed a couple more athletes. From with Betsy, when we would go to national tournament, we would end up losing some tough games because we just didn't have the athletes. We'd have a couple key players like Tia Hay was ridiculous her year. Eva Georgieva, Tyler Clark. We always had one or two great players. Lauren Gustin, that's now at BYU. But we never had those athletes that could really run with like the Northwest Floridas, the Texas, and those hurt us at the national tournament. So me taking over the head job, I'm like, that's one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some athletes as well as some kids that are more IQ, more of your skill type kids that have to do everything right, And I think this year I've actually got that. I got me the athletes that I need as well as those IQ kids.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for joining us in the hot seat this week. And we wish you the best of luck moving forward. And y'all just continue to do your thing and keep rolling and keep making things happen.
Intensity fuels these champion student athletes to greatness. Zurich Insurance is proud to be the official provider of student athlete insurance for the National Junior College Athletic Association. Throughout the highs, we cheer along to their screams of victory. Throughout the lows, we support them through their tears of defeat. Zurich Insurance, helping student athletes play the sport they love.
NJCAA Hot Hoops, Kenya Landers and Dan Olson. Let's go to our mailbag, Kenya, and see what we've gotten from our Twitter followers and interesting questions we may have, all things JUCO.
Yes, we got some good questions this week. Remember, guys, keep sending those questions in. I know some of them haven't made it yet, but we're on it. We're working on it. Okay. So with conference play in full swing, which of the leagues are we watching closely right now?
Well, love to watch every league, of course, but and of course we dwell a lot upon the West Texas JUCO League, the Whack Jack, the Panhandle of the Panhandle of Florida, but you've got the Southern Conference, that we've touched with Indian River, Eastern Florida State. Some of those schools down Miami-Dade's in that, and Florida Southwestern, a team that we haven't talked about at all. In fact, I have to get down there and see them. I have to go to Fort Myers, I guess, to see them.
Oh, poor you.
Yeah, but or I guess I can watch them on video, but I like to see them live.
Yeah.
But you know, they're in that league and they've always been good, Florida Southwestern. They've been solid. And I know that Eastern's going to be playing them as well coming up, but that's got some implications in national tournament view because you know mainly the NJCAA isn't going to take 3 teams from the Panhandle Conference,
Right.
even though those 3 teams may be the best out of the whole state. They're going to have to take some, you know, variety, you know, and it's been that way in the past anyway. So, but then, you know, you've got these leagues like up in North Dakota State School of Science, who's made the national tournament before. They were there last year in Lubbock and had a good showing. I think they won their first game and then they got into, you know, other games where they finally got beat. But,
Yeah.
you know, there's some teams up there in that league that are going to probably surprise us. And that's happened before every year, you know. So, and of course, the Jayhawk Conference is so competitive and balanced. You know, you got a team like Garden City with new coach Greg Franklin there, who used to be at Chipola. I mean,
Yep.
he's had his struggles this year. You know, he's been competitive in virtually every game, you know, which is, you know, my hat goes off to him because he's kind of playing with his gun half loaded, so to speak, you know, until he
Yeah.
gets it really rocking. But, you know, Hutch is seeming to be the class of the field there in the Midwest, and they will continue to march forward as they usually do. But Barton's strong. You know, I think they're good. You know, Butler, sleeper, you know.
Yeah.
Um, they've got a great player, you know, that we touched base about before. That lit it up for like 32 the other night. My mind is escaping me as to who they played. Uh, but you know, Butler's going to be there, you know, knocking on the door in that league. And then, you know, Trinity Valley, I think they suffered another loss this past week. Um, but nonetheless, you got Angelina, you got Blinn, you know, you got some teams there that are going to start to make things a
Yeah.
mess. You know,
That
so
region 14 is always, you know, like it's just always something, you know. And typically the teams that, you know, come out of region 14 make some good noise. So we'll see.
yeah. I went and watched, by the way, I was in Illinois the other day. I watched Vincennes.
Oh.
Vincennes I hadn't seen. They hadn't been out to any region, you know, jamboree player or whatever. Harry Meeks, still the head coach there at Vincennes. You talk about a legendary figure in women's basketball in the JUCO ranks. It's Harry Meeks. Vincennes, the only junior college in the state of Indiana, by the way, but they've got a Division I setup. Okay, it's nice. And they snuck out of Southwestern Illinois the other night. I mean, they had them by 20, and Southwestern Illinois came back and almost stole the game. You know, so but Harry got it done, and his team got it done, and he's got some athletes on his team and some skill front court players. So it could be interesting as time moves on. As he's got to get by Wabash Valley, who's a juggernaut, you know, offensively. So, you know, there's a lot of different leagues, you know, CSI, we got Casper, we got some interesting.
We could go on and on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So,
I love that. But that's when you know the game is good.
that's
We
right.
got quality basketball all over the
balance.
country.
Got a lot
Yes,
of
sir.
balance.
Yep. All right.
What you got?
So any teams that we feel like have made a statement with quality wins or performances since coming back from the break?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can even go back before the break, but
Yeah.
obviously McLennan made a statement win against Collin at home the other night. You know, they were 2 top 5 teams in the country.
Yeah.
Vying for some love from the upper echelon, and it was McLennan. So it's going to be a great game when they return the favor, you know, and see how that works out. But that's one. You know, Eastern Florida State they're the only one that has beaten Gulf Coast earlier in the season, but that was prior to Christmas.
Yep.
So, and you know, so you've got some games like that that are
Yeah.
that are real statement games. You know, Southern Idaho, you know, playing Salt Lake is going to be an interesting game. You know, Salt Lake, as we'd spoken about earlier, I mean, she's played some really good teams in her early part,
Yeah.
and you know, she was close on a couple of them there. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, the balance of like South Georgia Tech has always been a dominant force, along with Georgia Highlands in that league in Georgia. Well, Georgia Highlands has gone Division II on the level.
Yeah.
And so, and then we've got a new coach coming in at South Georgia Tech. A lot more balance going on there now. We got Central Georgia Tech that's involved. You got teams that are kind of sneaking up on others that have been perennial powers, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we got to give a shout out to some of these teams throughout those southern states like Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Shelton State, who's started to move and kind of run some wins together. You know, Pearl River, those teams we've talked about before. Those teams are starting to distance themselves, I think, from the others that are down in that part of the country. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there you have it.
All right, that sounds good. That sounds good to me. Okay, so we know with all the talk about the COVID year and how that's just all the many of years of eligibility. I think I still have eligibility in the COVID year. Can I play still? I think I can.
You probably could, you know.
So with this,
you could probably try to pull that off, you know.
ooh, I should.
Yeah.
Then what am I going to do though if my kids want to come to my game?
That's okay.
Okay. Okay, so this is in fact our last COVID year at the NCAA level.
Right.
How do we think that will positively impact the recruiting for junior college again?
And I think it'll be a good thing because it'll balance things out because there's been in my opinion, there's been too many free passes going on here. I mean, you know, people have continued to play and play and play and play. Enough is enough, you know. Opportunity awaits for some of these high school kids that are getting overlooked, that are solid, good players that are getting kind of shifted to the back because we've got the portal, you know. And then we got portal kids in there that should have never gone to play basketball to begin with because they weren't good enough, you know, or Division I basketball. They should have played at a lower level and they would have had a better experience. I mean, I'm being honest, you know.
No, you're right.
And but with COVID being, you know, now cut off, as you could say, that's nothing but a good thing in my opinion to see because, you know, again, you know, you got to move on. You know, you can't keep holding on to these dreams. It's just let's move on with things, you know, and give others the opportunity to play.
Yeah, because I mean, if I have a choice of a freshman or some NCAA experience, I'm going with experience. Or if I have, a JUCO kid that people typically might gamble on because the upside is good, I'm going to go with experience. And so, I am ready for it to level back out and we can get back to real, like, the authentic basketball, the real, we don't have, 25-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds anymore. It's time for it.
Yeah, I think I saw something the other day about a football player having played almost like 8 years now. You know, because they had injury for a couple of knee injuries, then they had COVID, and
it's wild.
It's like the guy's like on his 3rd degree.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, more power to him if he can get a free education. But look, enough's enough here. Let's get it moving on, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I'm happy.
No shade on those that are in their 5th and 6th year, but we just want to get the new ones in.
Yeah, exactly. You know, absolutely. So anything else you got?
No, man, that's it.
Okay.
That's it for us.
Well, we're gonna sign off then, I guess. What you think?
Yeah, great show. So thankful for Marcy Grayer joining us, and we will be excited to see who we have on the hot seat next week too.
Yeah, and I'm happy for Marcy because I think she's been frustrated the last couple of years, because
Yeah.
teams haven't done like what she knew she could have done there. Because that's a nice place. She's got a nice setup there at Salt Lake. So I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that she can really make a statement here these next, month and a half before the tournament starts. So
yeah, I feel like she will. She's smart, man. She's good. She's good at what she does.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's Hot Hoops. Kenya Landers, co-host Dan Olson, and we will see you guys next week.